Hi, I am Allie Camilletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about self-care. Self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. As I reflect on self-care, I think about how I don't know if anybody's ever been like, ooh, I'm going to do self-care because it sounds like it's fun. I feel like it comes from a place of usually people needing to, whether it's burnout, health issues, but it's almost like it comes out of a place of necessity. It's funny. As I'm recording this, it's the week of my 50th birthday, and I've had a lot of reflection. And today I'm going to reflect a bit on what 2022 has been for me and what my self-care practice looks like. And then what really has come out of it. So it's interesting as I look at becoming 50, every decade of my adult life, I have had something major happen in my life that has impacted me in a serious way. When I was 20, I had my first love pass in an avalanche. It changed my life forever. There's no question about it. And I will say, here I have been this last year doing some major work on what happened for me when it came to romantic relationships and how I ended up processing what happened when I was 20. At 30, I had a crazy tumor that I mentioned in the interview with Nina, and that became a situation where I had too much trauma happen during that time of my crazy tumor. And I did not lean into self-care. And then during my year of turning 40 is when I started leaning in pretty heavy to self-care, because that's when all the infertility challenges came up and I couldn't do things the way I had done them anymore, numbing. And so I had to really bring in some tools that I still use today and will share. But if I just look at this last year, whew, what a year. So a big part of my personal work this last year was releasing an extremely stressful family relationship of 46 years. There was a lot of work around that. And then in January of 2022, I was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. And similar conversation when I had the crazy tumor that wrapped around my liver. You're too young. We're not sure. We'll watch it. And so I have had a new life of really sobriety. And it wasn't that much of an extreme shift for me because of having a daughter and really not drinking as much when I'm in mom mode, but definitely my conference time looked different. I will say I have really loved the life of sobriety. I have never been healthier in my entire life than I am right now, today. Another big thing that happened in 2022 is I had the benefit of standing by and helping a special soul find freedom from a domestic violence situation. And it is something that will forever change me. It was something that was healing in its own way for myself, because in my teenage years, I lived with other families because of my family dynamic. And so it was such an honor to be in that place with this person. And then after hearing about this, as silly as it may sound, but my daughter started kindergarten. I didn't think it was a big thing going into it, but I guess it's a thing. And it was a huge thing. A lot of changes for her, scheduling, and just emotionally. And it was emotional for me as well. And then it was just in the end of October, I finalized the divorce of a 10-year marriage after 2.5 years of lawyer meetings and really standing up for myself and my daughter to keep my house that I bought on my own 17 years ago. So it's kind of been a jam-packed 2022. Well, what did I do when it came to self-care after having such a packed year? And really, a packed how many decades of big challenges in my life? Because of the crazy tumor and them saying that it was from being on birth control pills for, I want to say, since I was 15 at that point, I was 30, so 15 years of birth control pills. Basically, I do not embrace pharmaceuticals. It's just not my go-to. Essential oils. I've talked about this before. I'm an advocate with them. Peppermint and lavender on the back of my neck is my go-to when I'm having stressful days. Absolutely. And then this year, I also found out about additional food allergies. And so I love this essential oil called DigestZen. And I know it seems silly, but I put a little bit in my belly button when my stomach doesn't feel good because of the food allergies. And it's really helpful. The other part is that I have a little bit of asthma. And so what I'll often do is doTERRA has a brand called Breathe that I will use often. And I just inhale that through my nose and my mouth, and then I'll kind of rub it on my chest throughout the day so I have that to help. So essential oils, I'm a big fan. I diffuse them, absolutely love them. They're one of my favorites. Another self-care practice for me is really being present with my daughter. And what this looks like is having experiences with her. As part of my mission to create resiliency with her is to have different experiences. And we had the beautiful pleasure of going to Disneyland for a surprise couple-day trip that I did with my daughter. And it was to celebrate our month where I was turning 50 and she was turning 5.5. And so we had a blast. And I just loved it so much being able to just be with her and be present. We didn't have any plans the whole trip. We were just there to go experience Disney. And watching life through her eyes for the first time, I think that's the best self-care anybody could do. I have friends that literally Disney's like joy therapy. That may not be the case for everybody. I get that. Those lines, they can kind of be a little bit long sometimes. But being able to see Disney around Christmas, fabulous and amazing. And then I really strive to volunteer a couple days, just an hour each, at her school. It allows me to go be a part of her life at her school, as well as support her in her education and get to know her environment and her friends. Another thing I did, which I will call it self-care, but it was also risky and it pushed me a little bit, is that I invested in myself by doing voice coaching. Dina Cam, just such an amazing woman who I am so grateful for. But we had been talking probably a year ago, as I'm recording this, and I was sharing with her that the theme of, the time had been me learning how to speak up, really speak my truth, which had not been easy for me for a very long time. And yeah, a very long time. And whew, here I am, almost 50, and I was learning how to speak up. So she said, "You have to work with me." And I was like, really? Because I think of voice coaching, I think of singing, but it wasn't. It was voice therapy for me. And she taught me about what happens when we are taught at a very young age to be quiet. And if you've met me, you probably wouldn't think I'm a very quiet person, but I'm also not a huge extrovert screaming either. And so I learned a lot about that. And the speaking up piece, just so important. And so for me, it was physical as well as emotional. And I'll never forget one day I showed up and she's like, "What have you been doing? Have you been working out?" I'm like, "I always work out, Dina." She's like, "Something's different with your voice." And I shared with her something that had happened for me emotionally. And I'm sure because it's just been such a big part of this last year, was probably during the divorce situation of just speaking up. And she's like, "Your voice has changed. It's deeper now." And I was like, I guess that's it. And one of the things I loved to dive into her about was what happens with the voice with trauma and how we can talk really high or be really quiet, and what that is really deep rooted and connected to. The other part is talk therapy. I adore my therapist. I have been going to her for 7 years. There's been times I've taken a little bit of a break, but I'm pretty consistent. I go every other week. We do bring in EMDR therapy, which that could be a whole session, so you should just Google it. But it's been a big part of my therapy and my growth is doing the EMDR part. The other is acupuncture. So what I have learned about my body is that when I have health challenges, I need to be an advocate for my own health, because it's not the first time I've heard a doctor say, "That's weird. We don't know. Let's just watch it," which I don't really always like that answer. And so one of the things is that I chose to do a lot of acupuncture, which was recommended by my naturopath when I was diagnosed with the cirrhosis of the liver. And so I started doing acupuncture, I don't know, probably like February or March, and I'm recording this right now in December. And I just had in October the best lab work I've ever had. I also have something called hemochromatosis, which is an overproduction of iron in your blood. And the lab work came back saying I didn't need to have my usual phlebotomy because my liver numbers were so good. After meeting with my naturopath, she was like, "You know what? I think it's because everything you've been doing for your liver, and so it's not inflamed as much anymore. And that is creating the hemochromatosis to not be as elevated at this point." The acupuncture, I mean, we hit on so many things. When you think about liver, you think about anger. I walk in there and they're like, "Have you been angry?" I'm like, at that point, I'm like, I don't know, little less than 2 years into a divorce. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm pretty angry still, working on it, doing my best, working on it though. And so we did a lot of anger work, anger from that family situation, which then was a part of me speaking up for what was right in a family dynamic that had been there my entire life. And so I'm a fan of acupuncture, I really am. And then I also tried a harmonic egg, which might be like, really? A harmonic egg? So you'd go and sit in this egg-like structure, not actually an egg, and there would be harmonic sounds that would play. One day when I went, the lady, and she's like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a tough day." She's like, "So this is the deal. This egg is soundproof, so you can go in there and scream." Do I wonder if I was really just investing in a good nap? Some days I think so. But you know what? Everybody needs a good nap. I don't know. Can I say that it really made a huge difference? I really can't. But this was part of my self-care. Making time for me to go do something that made my body feel good. And it did. It made my body feel good and my mind feel good. Then massage. I have been an advocate of massage, I would say, for quite a while now. Monthly massage, I think, is something you just should do. Now, I do get some back pain often, and because I am so physically active and picking up and carrying, a toddler for years, massage has been a great, great thing for me. I randomly have had some TMJ in my jaw. They say I've been clenching all the time, which maybe had caused it. And so I've been doing massage on that, which has been helping. But self-care, time for me to relax, be quiet, and just do something that makes my body feel good and cared for. And then it's human touch. We all need human touch. The other thing is chiropractic. So I have a gentleman that he does more fascia tissue focused, and he's pretty amazing. I really appreciate him. And so I go to the chiropractor once a month, and it's always just to kind of give my body a little tune up to make sure that everything's aligned. And he'll focus on those fascia areas and give me pointers on what I need to be doing differently in my workout practice or whatever it is. Something that I think is the key of my self-care is that I make time, 30 minutes, 5 to 6 days a week, where I increase my heart rate. For me, that often can look like a jog, and it's just 2 miles. Or it can look like hiking. We are in winter right now, so for me, it's cross-country skiing, which I love so much, and I do definitely more than just 30 minutes, but still, it's that time in nature where I can process in my mind, I can elevate my heart rate, and feel good. And that just speaks to nature time. All of my physical activity I do in nature. That is just who I am. I love nature. It's my home, and that's where I feel most present. So spending that time in nature. The other is I do a little bit of I call it my hot tub meditation. It might just be 10 minutes some nights, but I will just go sit in the hot tub, close my eyes, and be really quiet the most I can, because I will say meditation might not be my complete strength, so I just do my best. Now, self-care looks different for everyone, but you can see based on everything I listed, I don't do those just once a year. I do them all the time. I require that, though, based on who I am, my past traumas, and really being able to be present for my clients, for my friends. And I will say that's the other part this last year is really focusing too on spending time with friends who really see me. They don't judge me. They make me feel valued in our friendship, and they make my heart feel good. Those are the people I surround myself with. So what did I learn this year? The silver lining of all of it, right? I learned how to love myself, feel comfortable in my body, emotionally and physically. I found my voice for speaking up with authenticity and through transparency. And then something I will always continue to work on, but a big piece of it is setting healthy boundaries. I leave with you today a quote by L.R. Knosts. Taking care of myself doesn't mean me first. It means me too. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.